I never thought the happiest day of my daughter's life would be the day my own heart broke in front of 200 strangers. The string lights glowed soft and golden above the garden reception. Music played. People laughed. Emily looked beautiful in her white dress, the one she had dreamed about since she was little. I stood near the back in my only good suit, holding the small gift I'd carried in my pocket all day. Then her new mother-in-law walked straight up to me, her smile tight and cold. "Robert," she said quietly, "this might be best if you slipped out now. You don't really fit with the rest of the family photos. We'll tell Emily you weren't feeling well." I just stared at her. My own daughter's wedding. The child I had raised alone for 18 years after her mother died. And they were asking me to leave. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I simply nodded once, turned around, and walked toward the exit with every eye in the place following me. My chest felt like someone had punched straight through it. But the real shock? That came later. Much later. My name is Robert Ellis. I'm 61 years old now, but back then I was just a tired dad trying to do right by his little girl. I grew up in a small town outside Pittsburgh. My father worked steel, my mother cleaned houses. We never had much, but we had each other. That was enough for me. When I met Laura, Emily's mother, I knew I'd found the best part of my life. She was a kindergarten teacher with the kindest heart I'd ever seen. We got married young, had Emily, and for 6 beautiful years everything felt right. Then the cancer came fast and took Laura when Emily was only 7. After that, it was just me and my daughter in our little 2-bedroom house on Maple Street. I worked as a mechanic at Hank's Auto Repair. Long hours, grease under my fingernails that never seemed to wash out completely, but I made sure Emily never missed a meal, never went without books for school, and always had someone cheering at her soccer games. I'd come home exhausted, make her dinner, help with homework, then sit on the porch after she went to bed, just thinking about how I was going to keep us going. Some nights I cried out there by myself, but every morning I got up and did it again. Because she was worth it. Emily was smart, really smart. She got her mother's smile and her grandfather's stubbornness. She worked hard in school, got scholarships and went off to college. I was so proud the day she graduated. I sat in the back row in my same old suit, clapping until my hands hurt. She met David during her final year. He came from a wealthy family in the city. Big house, country club membership. The kind of people who vacation in places I'd only seen in magazines. At first, I was happy for her. She sounded excited on the phone, and I wanted her to have the life I could never give her. But slowly, things started changing. She visited less. When she did come home, she seemed embarrassed by our small house, by my old truck in the driveway, by the way I still ate dinner in my work shirt sometimes. David's parents, Richard and Cynthia Harrington, were polite at first, but I could feel the distance, the way they looked at my calloused hands, the way they asked questions about my career like it was a hobby. Still, I kept my mouth shut. I wanted Emily to be happy. So, when they announced the engagement, I smiled and hugged my daughter tight. I told her I'd be there for anything she needed. I meant it. I spent the next year saving every extra dollar. I worked overtime, fixed cars on the side, even sold some of my late wife's jewelry I had kept for sentimental reasons, just so I could contribute something to the wedding. Emily said the Harringtons were covering most of it, but I wanted to pay for the flowers. My little girl deserved flowers from her dad. The wedding planning was when the real tension started. We sat at a long table with linen napkins and glasses that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Cynthia kept talking about the right kind of people and maintaining standards. Richard barely looked at me. David just smiled like everything was fine. At one point, Cynthia turned to me and said, "Robert, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but perhaps it's best if you let us handle the details. We know how these things should look." Emily didn't defend me. She just looked down at her plate and said softly, "Dad, they really know what they're doing. That one hurt." But I smiled anyway. "Whatever makes you happy, sweetheart." The small betrayals kept coming. They changed the seating plan so I wasn't at the head table with family. They forgot to include me in some photos. Emily started correcting the way I spoke in front of David's friends. I felt myself shrinking smaller and smaller in her life, but I still showed up. I still loved her. The night before the wedding, I sat in my truck outside the fancy hotel where everyone was staying. I had the gift in my pocket, a simple silver locket that belonged to her mother. Inside was a tiny photo of the 3 of us when Emily was 5. I wanted her to have something real on her big day. I never got the chance to give it to her. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Emily walked down the aisle on her own because she said it felt more modern. I watched from the back row, tears in my eyes, remembering the little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest. When they said, "I do," I clapped harder than anyone. Then came the reception. Everything was perfect, until it wasn't. I was standing near the bar, nursing a glass of water, when Cynthia approached with two of her friends. She spoke low, but not low enough. "Robert, could we speak outside for a moment?" I followed her. That's when she delivered the words that still echo in my head. "This is a celebration of two prominent families coming together," she said, her voice sweet but sharp. "Your presence is drawing attention. People are asking questions. It might be best if you left quietly. We'll make sure Emily understands." I looked past her toward the dance floor where my daughter was laughing with her new husband. She glanced over once, saw us talking, and looked away. I felt something inside me crack. "I raised that girl," I said quietly. "I was there when her mother died. I worked 2 jobs so she could have opportunities I never did, and you're asking me to leave her wedding?" Cynthia's face didn't change. "This isn't personal, Robert. It's about image." I nodded slowly. "I see." I walked back inside, picked up the small gift from my table, and headed for the exit. A few guests whispered. Someone laughed nervously. Emily never came after me. That night I drove home in silence. I sat on my front porch until sunrise, holding the locket, wondering where I had gone wrong. The weeks after the wedding were quiet, too quiet. Emily sent a few texts. Short, polite. "Thanks for coming, Dad. We're heading to Europe for the honeymoon." Nothing more. No call, no visit. It was like I had been erased. I went back to work at the shop. Hank, my boss of 30 years, could tell something was wrong. He didn't push, just gave me the harder job so I could keep my hands busy. One afternoon, about 6 weeks later, an older man walked into the shop. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. Gray hair, strong posture, wearing a simple jacket. "Robert Ellis?" he asked. "That's me," he smiled. "You don't remember me, do you? Name's Thomas Riley. I was your wife Laura's colleague years ago. Taught at the same school. We shook hands. He told me he had moved away after Laura passed but had recently returned. We sat in the break room and talked about old times. Then he got serious. "I heard about the wedding," he said gently. "Small town news travels. I also heard something else you need to know." He reached into his bag and pulled out a thick envelope. "Your wife wrote this letter a few months before she died. She asked me to hold on to it and give it to you if things ever got really hard with Emily. She was worried about the future. She knew how much you loved that girl." My hands shook as I took the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Laura, along with several official documents. I read the letter slowly. "Robert, my love, if you're reading this, it means I've been gone a long time and our baby girl is grown. I know you'll give her everything, but promise me one thing. Don't disappear for her. You are her foundation. There's something I never told you. My grandmother left me a trust. I never touched it because I wanted us to build our own life. It's been growing quietly for years. The papers are with this letter. It's for you and Emily when the time is right. Use it wisely, not for show, for security, for love. You are the strongest, kindest man I've ever known. Never let anyone make you feel small. Forever yours, Laura." I sat there staring at the pages for a long time. The trust wasn't millions, but it was significant. Enough to change everything. Enough that I had been sitting on real security while thinking I had nothing to offer. Thomas told me he had kept track of the investments quietly as Laura requested. It had grown steadily. I had never known, but that wasn't even the full twist. 2 days later, I got a call from a lawyer in the city. The Harrington family had been looking into some old business dealings. Turns out, David's father, Richard, had made some aggressive investments years ago that nearly ruined several small businesses, including one that belonged to a group of veterans I had quietly helped over the years through a local support fund I ran from the shop. One of those veterans had kept records, and those records showed that Richard Harrington had cut corners that hurt good people. I didn't want revenge. I never did. But when the lawyer explained that the evidence could affect David's family reputation and business, I had a decision to make. I asked for a meeting. Richard and Cynthia sat across the table looking uncomfortable. David and Emily were there too. Emily wouldn't meet my eyes. I slid copies of Laura's letter and the trust documents across the table, along with the business records. I didn't come here to destroy anything, I said calmly. I came here because my daughter deserves to know the whole truth. About me, about her mother, and about the kind of family she married into. I told them everything. How I had raised Emily alone. How I had worked every day so she could have choices. How I had kept the trust untouched because I wanted her to be proud of what we built together, not what money bought. Then I looked at Richard, and I know about the old deals. I'm not going public. But I want you to understand something. My daughter is not a trophy. She is a good person who was raised with values. If you ever ask me to leave her life again, I won't walk away quietly next time. The room was silent. Emily started crying. She finally looked at me. Daddy, I'm so sorry. That was the first time she had called me daddy in years. Things didn't fix overnight. Real life doesn't work that way. But Emily started coming home again. She and David came for dinner at my little house. David looked different, quieter, more respectful. Richard and Cynthia kept their distance, but they stopped the public snobbery. I used part of the trust to fix up the house. Nothing fancy, just made it comfortable. I bought a new bench for the porch where I used to sit alone at night. Emily and I sat there many evenings talking about her mother, about life, about mistakes. She told me how lost she had felt trying to fit into David's world, how she had pushed me away because it was easier than standing up to them. She apologized through tears more than once. I forgave her. Of course I did. She's my daughter. Porch at sunset. One evening she handed me back the locket. I want to wear this on our anniversary every year, she said, so I never forget where I came from. I nodded, throat tight. That's all I ever wanted, sweetheart. David has been trying. He helps me with small projects around the shop sometimes. We're not close, but there's respect now. Real respect. Richard eventually settled some quiet restitution with the veterans group. Not because I forced him, but because the truth has a way of changing people when they finally see it. I still work at the shop. I like the smell of oil and the feeling of fixing something with my hands. Some things don't need to change. But now when I sit on the porch at night, I'm not alone with my worries. Emily calls more, she visits, and sometimes on quiet evenings, I take out Laura's letter and read it again. Life taught me something important through all of this. No one can take your dignity unless you let them. And family, real family, isn't about money or status or how you look in photos. It's about who shows up when things get hard. It's about love that survives mistakes. I almost let them push me out of my daughter's life. But the truth, the quiet strength my wife left behind, and the years I spent doing the right thing even when no one was watching, those things spoke louder than any fancy wedding or expensive suit ever could. If you're watching this and you feel small in your own family story, I want you to remember this. Stay steady. Keep your hands clean. Love hard even when it hurts, because one day the people who matter will see you clearly, and the ones who don't, they'll have to live with what they lost. My name is Robert Ellis. I'm just a regular man who loved his daughter with everything he had, and in the end, that was more than enough. Thank you for listening to my story. If it meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, your worth was never up for negotiation. God bless.